Chapter 15, Industrial Revolution, Part 4, Karl Marx and Communism. So the key ideas of communism is what Marx believed is all of history is a story of class struggle between the bourgeoisie, the owners of the production, owners of the land, and owners pretty much of all the resources in a country, and the proletariat, the industrial workers. The goal is to create a classless society. Private property should not exist. All capital should be controlled by the government. This does not include personal property like your home, your car, things like that. Only that which can be used to make a product. So factories, large stores, things like that, those would be owned by the government. So scientific socialism. To separate his ideas from utopian socialists, utopia means a perfect society. So to separate his ideas from a utopian socialist of the day, Marx believed the evolution of a worker-controlled state was inevitable. He believed that workers would take over pretty much all production and control everything eventually. So socialism is a political movement to improve the lives of workers by passing laws to protect them. Later socialists argued that government should own basic industries and provide essential services, like free schooling, which we have, low-cost housing, which we have in the United States also, inexpensive public transportation, which we also have, and a national health care program. So the government takes these over and helps out. Really, you're helping out the people who can't pay for those things. The bourgeoisie is believed that they would never give up their advantages, so the proletariat will have to revolt and take the government and actually create the needed changes to society that you would have to have these things provided. So a command economy. So in contrast to what we've been studying with free enterprise and market forces driving the economy, market forces means the government does not control prices. What you have is companies will set a price, and if they have to, they go lower. If they have to go up in price, but they control it. The government doesn't control it. So instead of the market force driving the economy, the factors of production are all controlled by central administration, which means government. So the central administration, usually the government, will determine what is to be produced, and really what you have is cooperation instead of competition. In market forces, say you have different grocery stores like H-E-B, they compete against each other. In a command economy, you have cooperation to where everybody works together and the price is set. So in a command economy, what's going to be produced is determined completely by the government. How it's going to be produced is determined by the government, and for who it is produced is determined by the government. All right, Karl Marx. So Karl Marx wrote two important books. The most important one is the Communist Manifesto, or the Communist Manifest, and he was also helped by Friedrich Engels when he wrote that book. And it's a short work that was quickly published in 1848. Remember the year of revolution we had last chapter. What had happened, you had all these revolutions. So Marx thought this was going to be the workers overthrowing pretty much the world, and he writes the Communist Manifesto as quick as he can. So it's a short book. His other book he writes later on after the revolutions kind of fail, and it's called Das Kapital, or the Capital. Marx wrongly thought that these revolutions were the start of his anticipated communist revolution. The remainder of his life, he worked on Das Kapital, a 3-volume work that details his ideas and pretty much every aspect of the communist economic system. Second Industrial Revolution. So in the late 19th century, inventors actually brought on another industrial revolution. So the improvements in chemicals, steel, and petroleum industries, and the introduction of electricity all brought on the second industrial revolution. So some of the famous people during the second industrial revolution are Thomas Edison. He developed the phonograph, which you see up at the top. He developed motion pictures, and he also developed the electric light bulb. So he did a lot of different things. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, and Marie Curie studied radioactivity and discovered radium. So summary of all the chapter. Economics describes how people meet their needs, In a free enterprise system, people are free to choose what they produce and what they're going to consume. And of course, Adam Smith, in the famous book The Wealth of Nations, explained how this system works. So geography and other advantages set the stage for the Industrial Revolution starting in Britain. Britain had coal, Britain had iron, they had running water, and they had several harbors. It had a strong middle class, it was politically stable, it had a colonial empire, and it had global trade. So they were set up to actually start the Industrial Revolution. New inventions like textile manufacturing triggered the Industrial Revolution. Remember, textiles is clothes. So the spinning jenny allowed many threads to be spun at one time. James Watt improved the steam engine, which actually drove the textile machines inside the factories. Production moved from the home to the factories, where large numbers of people worked on machines. The power of the steam engine was next applied to transportation technology. Steamboats and railroads made travel cheaper, safer, and faster. The Industrial Revolution led to economic, social, and political changes. Mass-produced goods became cheaper. So the faster you can produce something and the more you can make of it, it actually becomes cheaper. Families moved from the countries to the towns and to the cities. The working conditions actually worsened for a lot of the different factory workers, and this called for a lot of social reforms, which we saw when we talked about how unions started and things like that. So critics of the Industrial Revolution included Karl Marx. Communists believed that eventually the workers would overthrow the capitalist factory owners in a violent revolution and abolish private property. Early socialists also criticized the laissez-faire capitalism, believing workers should be given greater rights and opportunities, and the government should own some of the businesses, the major businesses. So the Industrial Revolution encouraged a rising middle class in Italy and Germany who demanded unification. Both countries were unified by wars.